Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show today. I am Brendan. That is Brandon. And we got some Seahawks stuff to talk about today. Seahawks are coming off a big win, an impressive win, a win that I wasn't so sure they were going to be able to get, but they went out there and got it in Jacksonville back on Sunday. And now we've got another interesting game coming up this week that we will be talking about. But first, Brandon, how are you doing?
It's always better after a win, and you feel like the Seattle Seahawks have a real golden opportunity coming up here in the next week, and that always feels really good. And the season's rolling along just sweet, so feeling pretty good about all things considered.
Right. It's certainly a little bit better than last week, I would say, getting that win over a good Jacksonville team, and I still think they're good even after what happened this last week. So obviously you've had a chance to talk about that game a lot on your channel. I've had not as much of a chance as I would like to talk about it, but I've still certainly talked about it. When you're sick, you just can't quite push out that extra video or two a day.
Yeah.
But I do want to ask you, what are you really taking away from that game several days later?
Well, I think that we just get the further confirmation offensively to what Sam and Jackson are doing on that side of the ball, where they're playing as good as anybody at their position in the sport. And they have been so at that range pretty much throughout the whole entire year. And so you continue on with that. And I think that that just fosters more confidence that this can be a sustainable thing that we're going to continue to see as we go forward here. And you still have things offensively. You can't run the ball necessarily very consistently, which again makes it all the much more impressive what Sam's doing. You're pass protecting better, which is why, despite not necessarily having a run game that's taken a huge step forward, you're still able to be a lot more productive when you're back there slinging the rock and being very efficient on it. You're attacking defenses too in the way that I like, which is to where they're weak. I think you're giving Sam a lot of two calls up the line of scrimmage and giving him the opportunity for that when he gets so many of these stacked boxes to be able to then transition to the passing game. And that's why the passing game is able to go get a 10-yard average per clip, because he's going where they're weak. And then defensively speaking, we asked them to dial up some more pressure, to increase the heat, and to bring more of the stacked boxes to help your defensive line out. I think it was a combination of both that and your guys just rushing the passer better. I think it was both of those two things kind of going on at once, but you did dial some more things up. And hopefully Mike can take from that a bit of a lesson within this. The Tampa Bay versus Jacksonville game, two offenses, they're exactly the same, two different ways he played those particular offenses, two different results. Now, Bucs are a better team, but all that being said, like you said, I think the Jaguars are still a pretty good team. They may not be elite, but they're still a pretty good team. We'll be pushing probably for playoff contention at the end of the year. And I think that Mike's got to take that into account a little bit. Like, you're going to need to give this defense a little bit more, especially when they're shorthanded.
Yeah, it is interesting because I've had the chance to take a look at some of the data coming out of that game, as I'm sure you have. Seattle didn't really blitz any more than they did against any other team they played so far this year. I think they blitzed 8 times on like 50 dropbacks, which is 16%, which is right in line with where they've been all year. One of the things that I saw was that we played Leonard Williams on the end a lot, and that was something that really overwhelmed their tackles, but still not really sending the house at these opposing quarterbacks the way you might have expected after what happened against Tampa.
Yeah, I would estimate on that with that statistic. The one thing to consider with that is that you've got a 2-touchdown lead, as you get down the stretch in this game. And so once you have a big extended lead out like that defensively over the back 3-4 series, you're not going to be blitzing as much. You're going to stay to more of that static front on that side of it. So if you look at the blitzing numbers to the early part of the game from when they were to the later part of the game, I think you would find that they were blitzing at a much higher rate at that point. And then once they had the lead sort of locked down, then they went to a little bit more of a conservative approach with that. So they were definitely doing more than you did last week as far as, what you're dialing up. And again, not just the blitzing aspect of it, Brendan, it's also the stacked box simulated pressure. It all works combination. A lot of those stacked boxes and simulated pressures, you're not really always sending extra guys. A lot of times you're still coming with the 4, but you'll set 6 up at the line of scrimmage to sort of set the stage like it's coming with the 6 to change the protections. Then you drop out. This is how you start to give your one-on-ones to your defensive line that now only just have the 4 remaining.
Yeah, there's definitely some truth to that. I'm not saying that Mike didn't do anything really good in that game. I think Mike did a great job in that game, but It was interesting to note that his percentages didn't change radically, but he found other ways to get it done, which, hey, that's great. I mean, especially with a guy like Shaq Griffin out there and Ty Okada, and even the way Josh Jobe is playing lately hasn't been so great. Blitzing a lot would probably leave those guys in some really uncomfortable situations. So I think it's cool we were able to get it done without being overly aggressive. But let's see. One thing that happened in this game that caught my attention and a lot of people's attention was it seems like for the moment, at the very least, we're putting the Tyrese Knight thing on ice. He basically did not play. The only reason why he played at all was because Drake Thomas injured his thumb for a couple plays. So they've kind of made the pivot to making Drake Thomas your weak side linebacker. Do you have any thoughts about that switch up?
We don't really know what's going on with Tyrese Knight, and this coaching staff hasn't given us any indicator whether this is an injury or performance based. So I don't really have much that I can base this upon. I don't think that Drake Thomas has played. He played his best game, and since he's been in there as much as he's been in there. But with that being said, I don't think that there's something he's given you as far as a level of play that's different or more than what we had from Tyrese Knight last year. So it's a little bit of a mystery.
Yeah, I think they're frustrated with Tyrese in coverage, and they know that Drake Thomas is better there. Tyrese has looked kind of slow so far this year, but I ultimately don't think Drake Thomas is going to be the guy to really get it done. I don't think that Tyrese. I'm sorry. I don't think Drake Thomas is good enough to be starting in the NFL. So if the Tyrese Knight thing is just not working out, I would kind of hope we could acquire somebody at the trade deadline. I don't know who, but I would like to get somebody in here who's a little bit better than Drake Thomas. I just don't think that's good enough.
Yeah, I would agree with that a lot. I don't think if you're rocking with Drake Thomas for a full season, you're trying to count on him. I think that's a bit of a weak link on the defense. And as we saw last year with the Jones trade for a fourth rounder at the deadline, there tends to be outside linebackers, especially will linebackers, that you could probably go out there and find in the open market that can give you a reasonable upgrade for the position for a very little cost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely going to be stuff out there at that position. I think. I don't really have a name at the moment, but I know there's going to be guys out there. There always are. So,
Yeah.
I think that's the main stuff from that game that's really worth getting into. The stuff that really caught my attention. Um, so pivoting to this week, we haven't really had any news, any big Seahawks news over the last couple of days. I know there's a rumor going around that we're going to try to trade for Devin Achane from Miami, but it strikes me as clickbait. I don't think you can build a chain trade out of with Reek Woolen as the main piece because I just don't think Reek Woolen has that kind of value right now. So I know some people in the chat are asking about the Achane trade rumor, but I'm not buying it.
I'm not really buying it either, and I don't really see where that's going to fit. I guess I can see it from the standpoint if you needed an explosive guy, but you've got already kind of a Walker explosion speedster guy on your roster as it is right now. So that, I mean, the only way I could see that is if they've got to worry about Walker's health, and they want to make sure. And I will say to this point of this, Brendan, this offense does. As Shanahan has rolled into the modern era with his offense from a running back standpoint and an archetype of a running back, it's going to be a guy with explosiveness at the forefront, speed at the forefront, get to the hole in the timely fashion to be able to clear the hole before the block breaks down. You only got like a little bit of it's versus other schemes where I think there's some sustained blocks with running backs where they have a little more chance to kind of, gap-based systems and stuff like that. A little more opportunity for them to kind of take their time a little bit with it. And certainly Achane coming from McDaniel's system would be like for like, but I just don't see the need there. And the other thing is you're having a hard time running the ball effectively enough as it is just to get enough carries for your 1 and 2 guys. Where are you going to get enough carries for a guy like Achane, who also, as I understand it, is kind of heading into I think he's going just about through year 3 or 4 here where, his rookie club control is going to be bleeding out as well. I also don't understand moving Woolen where unless you got another outside corner move you're looking to make, doesn't really make a lot of sense to weaken down a unit that's already been pretty weak and has had a hard time staying healthy.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with that one. I don't know. It's getting posted on social media today. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but I don't buy
did, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't feel right to me. Like I don't think our issue running the ball is the talent level of our running backs.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see the same way. I just don't see it. And you go get him, and then you still not corrected the problem at the forefront of this. So how much are you going to get out of A-Chain then if he's got no holes for him either? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me on this one adding up.
Right. So that's I think that really kind of catches us up to where we really want to be today, which is looking forward, looking ahead to this next Seattle Seahawks game, another AFC South opponent. AFC South has proven to be a little bit more of a competitive division this year than I think we were expecting. We got some pretty good teams over there right now. And I don't know if the Houston Texans are one of those teams. They certainly have good elements to them. But let's start turning over this very late, by the way, 7 p.m., 10 p.m. on the East Coast, Monday night football game against the Houston Texans. So through 5 games, Houston has been a relatively straightforward team in that they have a really good defense, but their offense is struggling to find themselves just a little bit. So what are you thinking about starting off with this Houston team?
Well, I think you certainly worry a little bit about their defense. It's legit. It's fast. It's got guys that can get the job done, rushing the passer, which is the front four. Just looking at some of the little bit of the stuff with them is I think that they do a good job stopping the run, defensively speaking. Though they have the good edge rushers out there in Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson, who really give them good bookends there that are a challenge. They are also, I thought, interesting enough here, Brendan, they're middle of the road in pressure overall, but they are the slowest team to their pressure in this sport and how long it takes them to then generate that pressure. And when you do watch them, because they're really leaning more on that front four and they're not doing a lot of necessarily blitzing on the side of it, if that front four don't get home, and especially I think to the interior there where you're talking about Mario Edwards and Sheldon Rankins, which are kind of journeyman players at this point that don't necessarily challenge you from the inside, I think is heartily. I do see where maybe you can find a little bit of road here, hopefully, to run the ball and maybe a little bit less of having to be necessarily pass happy. I think this is a team that does play to being harder to hit the big plays. Teams are passing it a little bit higher than a run rate, but I think that's just how they're playing so well against the run and being so pretty good on the stifling on that. The yards per attempt is 26 fewest in the sport right now defensively. So they're low yard per attempt. Teams are countering that by then passing. They're not blitzing a lot. They're dropping to coverage. So patience of Sam working the ball up the field, not necessarily trying to press for the deep shot in this game versus where we've been with that a little bit recently, which is more stacked boxes and more a lot of pressure down by the line of scrimmage with some of the blitz rates we've been dealing with too. I think Texans will be a little different on this one, but I will say I thought the Jacksonville Jaguars would be a little different. They still kind of dialed some of that stuff up to sort of counter our condensed splits and just as the way the teams are playing us right now a little bit.
Yeah, despite how good JSN has played so far this year, I am kind of getting the sense that these opposing teams still don't treat him the way that they treat guys like Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. They're not giving him that respect. They're still kind of just treating him like another good receiver. And I do wonder if eventually that's going to change and we stop seeing all these stacked boxes.
Yeah, very well could. And they do a weird thing in Texans where there's a lot, it's either front four or you're getting the stacked and it's a really crazy stack you get. So it's like one to the other. There's not a lot of like the fire zone 5-man pressure kind of looks that you get from them. It's kind of like you get all these guys up there and then they're bringing or not, but they do bring a stack box rate that's still pretty high to the Texans. So I think like the Jaguars, being that they've got already a little bit of it in their defense, they'll lean into that a little bit more. I think the interesting part with them, though, is that they've managed to still stay top 10 stack box, but they still stay clear over the top where you stack it. You think you're leaving holes over the opening over the top, but they don't. They're still able to cover to depth at that side. That does mean, though, they drop into a lot of that zone stuff post snap. So it's stack the box. Then you're not covering a man tied off the line. You're just dropping to space, dropping to spot, dropping to depth. And then that means the underneath stuff's going to open on up. To your point, you're dropping that depth and you're sliding the double teams because I think you're right. I can only think of the Cardinal first half as being so far through all these games because they showed us some 22. Remember that game? They showed us a couple of shots of 22 of him being bracketed up and actually being double teamed a little bit in that game. Aside from that, though, you're right. I don't think that, and they didn't do it consistently all the way through. Teams still have not done that yet, and it will come at some point. I think once that then does come, you'll start to see Sam then be able to work in the Cooper Cups and some of the tight ends a little bit more, and Horton will get a little bit more action in there. I think he's targeting this because he's going, hey, I'm getting the one-on-one. I'm going to go ahead and attack it. And like you say, the condensed boxes, there's a lot of clarity on the back end of that when you're going to stack those boxes up. That it's not as many pile of bodies on that back end. Sam's got to navigate through to make the reads on that. It sort of simplifies things down just a little bit.
Yeah, it does kind of confuse me at this point because JSN, if the season ended today, he'd probably win Offensive Player of the Year. I don't know what it's going to take for these guys to realize this guy isn't just a great slot receiver. This guy's become a great receiver, period. And I even asked the question earlier this week: is he just the best receiver in football right now? Because he's doing it on all 3 levels in all 9 quadrants of the field, and it seems super sustainable for the most part. Like, I never would have thought that JSN would have been on the same level as a guy like Chase or Jefferson, but I think he's starting to make that argument. I think we're getting to that point where maybe he's not actually better than them, but he's in the conversation with them. So I don't know what it's going to take, but I'm pretty cool with teams treating him like this.
Yeah, I am as well. I think that as long as they want to leave that door open, he'll walk through it. And I think with you, I've been just as surprised in that he's been able to make this transition. We were talking earlier this year, he was at 70% outside rate. He has climbed that up to 80% now that he's working off the outside. And so he's only increased this with the year, and he's every game taking the top off the defense on top of being effective from the outside. And you can't deny what you're seeing at this point. He's on an all-time type pace here. And it's a one of the wonderful developments for this team. And I didn't see it. We like JSN, but I didn't see this type of season come from JSN.
No, not at all. And this week he does have his biggest challenge of the season in Stingley. So that's going to be a very interesting boxing match on the outside. I don't think he's faced anything close to a Derek Stingley so far in his career.
I don't think he has necessarily, especially because he's going to be on the outside and probably getting a lot of that. I think the one cool part of this from the Seahawks perspective and watching the tape on the Texans is that they've got that really nice slot cornerback in Jalen Petrie. We liked him coming out of Baylor. He's been a very good player for them, multiple interceptions in, I think, the Ravens game this year. But what he does with them is, right now this year, there's been a lot of the 12 personnel looks. And watching the Texans tape, a lot of these other teams now will go back to sort of their base defense. They'll go heavier up on the defensive line. The Texans will stay in nickel when you do go to 12 personnel. And so then what you can sometimes do with them is you can get 2 wide receivers to the one side of the field, and Stingley will then stay to the other side, and then you get the slot matchup in there on Petrie, who's a really good player. But if I'm able to get JSN isolated, especially into the slot, then at times with Petrie in there, to take him away from that Stingley matchup at times so that I can get him in a more advantageous matchup. I think that's a way to kind of do it, on top of, if they're going to go to that nickel, with 12, let's run, baby. If they're not stacking the box on it, then you run down and you attack that lighter box if that's how they're going to counter that.
I like it, especially because I think if this Houston defense has a weakness, it is probably that interior, like you were talking about. It's pretty soft in there. Mario Edwards, Rankins, Tim Settle, I think, is in there right now. If there's any weakness on this Houston defense, and they're a really good defense, so they don't have a lot in the way of weaknesses, but I would probably start there.
Agreed. Yeah, I think especially if you're not getting the stack box, when you see those moments, this is again giving Sam that combination package he can have coming up to the line of scrimmage. We got a run call, we got a pass call. If you feel that lighter box in this play, they got Petrie out there on the slot, and he's out there playing a little bit more with width, and you got the numbers in there, then go to the run on that, adjust to it in that moment.
Yeah, and that thing you said about how their pressure comes in slowly, do they have a high stunt rate to your knowledge? Is that part of the reason why? Because when you stunt, it typically takes a little longer to get home?
No, because it feels more like they're setting up the runway on the outside for Daniil and Will. And they're like giving those guys that sort of, you both go hunt off that outside and make it roll. It doesn't feel like there's as many of those kind of games. Like they really trust in those guys to beat the tackle across from them, and whatever they've got to do to get it done, they allow it, so to speak. But it's a lot more of them just kind of launching off the line, going into their menagerie of moves and getting usually upfield, usually trying to take the corner. It's not a lot of will put a little bit more of a bull rush in there, and Daniil's got every move in the book just about. But no, not up the tape I saw. Not a lot of what I didn't see much stunting in there.
Right, because the Seahawks, I think, also have a little bit of that going on where they get a lot of pressure, but it tends to be a little more slow developing
Hmm.
because they do stunt so much. And I think
Yeah.
that when you stunt, you have that extra beat before you get home.
Yeah.
So that's what I would initially assume. But when you look at the way that team is built with Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter, it's not a team you would on personnel level expect to be doing a lot of that kind of stuff. So kind of interesting.
I think too, it's with it, if you do the stunts, one of the reasons we do it so much and we're so effective at it is because of the fact Leonard Williams and Murphy are so athletic and explosive for their position. If you got some kind of just the can of dirt slow guys that really don't move much, and I would offer that Mario Edwards and Sheldon Rankins, they're kind of more of that than they are supreme movers for the position. You can get a stunt kind of neutralized if you got half the stunt process doesn't have a guy that's actually athletic enough to really challenge the play there.
Mm, very true. Very true. All right. So, anything else to say about this Houston defense? They got Aziz Al Shayert, linebacker. He's been underrated for a long time. Good player.
Just look out for the dirty stuff with him. That's all you got
Hmm.
to do with him. He gets a little wild with it, on that
Hmm.
side. No, he's good. Toa has rounded into, I guess, a pretty solid will linebacker. I didn't know if I saw him turning into a really decent pro, but he's solidified himself. He eats up tackles. The rest of the secondary with a Kamari Lassiter is a solid kid that got out of Georgia. He's rolling pretty solid. And Jalen Petrie is a guy you got to be careful with. He's a playmaker back there. He's all over the field. He hits. Um, he's a very useful player for them in the slot. He's a lot like kind of our Witherspoon in that way and how he's used. And so you got to be mindful of him a little bit there. But I think it's a defense that you can attack. You get some of the chips in there. You do some of that worked in for Charles and Abraham throughout the game here and there. But aside from that, those are really the two guys you got to mainly worry about. With the fact that I don't think they're going to blitz a ton at you either. Even though I say that, but a lot of teams are doing this, so maybe that's just kind of again that back to the book on Seattle is what you do right now.
I think we've got like the sixth ranked offense in the league right now. So maybe teams are going to wise up a little bit at some point.
I would think. I mean, when you got your quarterback averaging damn near 10 yards an attempt, Brendan, I mean, that's at the point where you start to go defensively. Look, we're doing this because we want to put this in Sam's hands to defeat us. And Sam is defeating us when we do this with the one-on-ones we're giving on the outside by trying to blitz like this. On top of the fact, Seahawks are doing a good job of keeping their quarterback clean. And here's the other part of the predictability part of this is that Kubiak's realizing these guys are doing this. And so then he just goes max protect and he's sliding in 2 or 3 extra blockers. Maybe he only has 2 receivers running routes, but it doesn't matter because the defense is all up around the line of scrimmage anyway. It's just
Hmm.
one-on-one bodies on the back end. It's almost like a cover zero blitz, not cover zero though, where you're fully bailed into that, but it's a little bit shades of that where you've just removed so many bodies off the back end that if we max protect and Clint gets the right call up against that blitz, and when you blitz that much, that's the problem with going to an extreme in any direction, Brendan, right? If you don't blitz at all, teams know you're not going to blitz and they can build that within their passing attack. And then if you're going to blitz too much, conversely, offenses know what's going on there too. And then they can counter that as well and start to really have some things dialed up where you think you're going to get a free rusher and they've got everybody blocked up. And then one-on-one with the JSN on the outside, like for instance, the Jalen Ramsey play where he took the top off the defense in that one at the end. It's like, look at all that wide open space on that play when Sam throws that. There's no safety anywhere. There's no corners anywhere. That's what you're looking at in those kind of situations.
Right. So you were talking about how Houston does a really good job keeping the back end clean. But obviously, Sam Darnold has been probably the best quarterback so far this year in terms of attacking down the field. Do you think we get some big ones on Houston this week?
No, I think it's going to be more patient. I think that's a smart defensive coordinator there, and he's going to understand that these teams have been kind of taking this similar page out week in and week out to try to attack Seattle, and that it's not really working in that way. And I think that they're going to try to, I think, play this a little more straight up on the back end in their coverage. They're a team that does really, to me, lean as much as anything into trying to, make sure that they're not going to give up that big play. So I think they're going to try to keep it clean up front when it says that and make us earn our way up the field, especially on the back of trying to run the ball competently too.
Mm-hmm. So maybe this is the week these defenses wise up a little bit and start playing us a little more honestly. I know it's going to happen. Like you can't play this effectively for this long and not have opposing teams realize we got to do something different.
You really can. I mean, you got to ask yourself, what do you want to get taken down by? You got you're sort of a lot of times feeling like you have teams still kind of loading up to stop the run on us, and that's where they want to put the point of emphasis, which I understand. I get that. That's where we're at in the NFL right now, this current season, where the game's transition, Brendan. But as well, when you have a team like Seattle that's not running the ball at all, and you're still kind of beefing up to stop that, to then leave yourself vulnerable in the back end, you're right. I would think that eventually one of these smart defensive coordinators in the league would wisen up a little bit on this and say, let's see if they can run on a light box, really. Let's see if dropping the two safeties deep, let's see if sliding the double teams over to is really going to now suddenly open up the floodgates for Seattle in the run game. And I would be that's the role I'd be in if I was a DC coming in to play Seattle right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what's taking them so long. I know that there's a little bit of stubbornness in NFL coaching just in general, but it's taken a while for it to be worked out.
I think that Kubiak's kind of caught guys with their pants down on these condensed splits. I think that I think that there is a rule of thumb in how you deal with it. And I think it's a real lazy kind of, if a team runs condensed splits, you just stack the box and blitz the hell out of them, because you can run corners off the blitz and they're right there on the outside corner anyway, right? So you can do a lot more exotic stuff in your blitz game, catch them a lot more off guard. But it seems like that's what's happening here is there's this sort of just generalized rule book on dealing with this that Kubiak was probably well aware of, and why he's probably leaned on this partly as well, because it's gotten Cooper and JSN to basically be on the field at the same time as sort of two de facto sort of slots, but can play to the outside. But that's what I sort of, don't you sort of draw to that, Brendan? When it's all said and done, it's hard to think of whatever else could be driving this a little bit other than maybe just a complete lack of faith in Sam Darnold.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to figure out. I thought maybe it would be that thing that you were just talking about with Darnold. But at this point, that's starting to get a little bit ridiculous. I mean, we're not just talking about what we've seen this season. We're also talking about what he did last year. So we're getting to the point where you've got a pretty healthy amount of evidence that this guy has improved massively over the last year and a half, and adapt or die.
Adapt or die, man. And you got to, wake up to it.
Also, it looks like we got a little bit of good news coming in here for the defense, and we'll be talking about them in a second here. Apparently, Witherspoon, Woolen, and Love are expected to be practicing today, at least in some capacity.
That is good news.
So that's pretty big. That would be a massive injection of talent into this secondary that really needs it, because I love Shaq Griffin, but he's not meant to be out there at this stage in his career.
No, you're getting by, and especially with Job kind of giving, like you talked about, some up and down performance in his game here recently too. So we need the reserves coming back into the ranks, or the reinforcements back in the ranks, because you got the benefit you did on last week's game. I thought a lot of times, and I thought Trevor Lawrence played a good game, but there was definitely some benefits down the stretch of alligator arms from Brian Thomas. A drop on a throw to the sideline here, a drop of a throw over here. The receivers kind of sold on Lawrence down the stretch in that game, and it could have made things look a little bit different for some of the corners in this one. But yeah, got to get those guys. Even getting one of those guys back would be huge for this game.
Absolutely. All right. We got a couple of donos here. We got JRD. Thank you for the $5. Now, I don't really know the money situation, but what about a trade for Wyatt Teller from the Browns, or possibly Woolen and picks for Denzel Ward? So to take these things one at a time, the money situation is that the Seahawks can basically do whatever they want. They have the money to make pretty much any move imaginable. They probably couldn't trade for Pat Mahomes. They probably couldn't trade for Dak Prescott. Other than that, I think anything is on the table theoretically, money-wise.
So you're right about that. Wyatt Teller is definitely one that people have talked about. Of course, we had the Uchenna Nwosu dirty play that could factor into this a little bit. The contract is also, the hard part is from the Browns standpoint of this. So the Browns, Brendan, did that whole move with Deshaun where they started to do the cascading effect of void year deals on deals you shouldn't be doing void years on, right? Because you just have to, because you're just desperate to get whatever cap space you kind of can get.
Right.
Well, okay, so they stuck all these void years at the end. Now, the void years stay with the team and the Browns that put the void years if they trade him. So we're not on the hook for the void years. That's not the problem here. But the problem is then, though, the cap really accelerates on them when they move him. So there's right now, they're $15.5 million that they've got to roll right now to move him essentially they've got to eat that amount of money to make the move of Wyatt Teller. Now the Browns are sitting on $22 million of cap space, so they could theoretically make the move, but would they want to, number one? And number two, does that then make the cost have to go so much more exorbitant to bring him in? Can you get Uchenna to sell off on it? I mean, I'm open to it because look, it's going to the right guard position and the center position are right now 2 weak links for us. Every week, those are the two positions that are just kind of a little bit of a holding on for dear life situation with both of them. You don't have a top really 30 player, I don't think, on either side. Certainly not in the center. You don't have a top 30 center right now. And I think Bradford's like a 50 something rated guy, 60 rated guy, barely top 60 in the guard stand. So, and I know it's PFF, but it's like, it is also representative of what you see from them on the field. So if you can upgrade it there, then that'd be great. I think with Ward, it becomes even harder. I would love to go get Ward. He's a great player, but he's a guy that as well, I think just signed his contract he signed it in 2022, I guess, a 5-year contract in 2022. So he's a guy that they could maybe figure out there a little more because the contract's starting to think out a bit.
Excuse me. I looked at the Denzel Ward thing a little bit earlier this week, actually. Mm-hmm. It doesn't look like Cleveland saves very much money on a trade. It looks like there's not a lot of cap savings involved, so you probably have to give up a lot. Like, you're not going to get away with Woolen in a fourth. You're going to have to give up some pretty serious assets here. You could do it, but how old is Denzel Ward now?
Yeah, I was just going to say he's 28 years old at this point. I would say that you're right about I think you're right on the draft capital you have to give up to get him. And that with his age right now, these corners hit that year 30 a lot of times, and they're Dunsky at that point. I mean, it is Cliff City a lot of times at 30. They're like running backs, and it doesn't get talked a lot about, but you do get like the outliers. What happens, Brennan? You get your Stephon Gilmores that played at like 33, 34, right? But it doesn't tend to be that the prime cornerbacks last that long. And I would feel like you're trading for a guy that you're going to probably give a first and a third up for that very well could be coming up to the end of that road here very soon.
And doesn't he have a history with a lot of concussions? Isn't he a concussion guy that's like maybe one away from just being completely out of the league?
Yeah, I think there's something to that. I want to say he's been banged around a little bit there with that. Also don't know if he's having the greatest of years right now.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's 92nd highest graded corner in the sport right now.
Yeah,
he's a little struggle here all across the board, by the way, too. Like, they don't like his run defense, they don't like his coverage, not even his pass rush.
I mean, maybe rescuing from Cleveland would do him some favors, but I don't know. That doesn't feel like the move to me. But Cleveland does have a logjam at guard. They've got Wyatt Teller, they've got Joel Bitonio. Those are your starters. They've also got Tevin Jenkins, who I know that people kind of forgot about Tevin Jenkins this offseason, I guess, but he was good last year, and he's been a good player in this league at guard for the most part, right?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on that situation. Like, they signed him there, and they're not playing him. They already had Bitonio, like you said, and Wyatt, so I never understood really the Tevin going there other than just trying to get themselves some insurance there. But you're right, he's not playing there right now. He's on a cheap deal.
And they got Zach Zinter there too. That's a guy they might want to play at some point. They might feel like, hey, this guy's the future, and Wyatt Teller is the past. So maybe they give up Wyatt Teller for a little bit cheaper, just so they could go get Zach Zinter out there. I don't know. I remember liking Zinter in college.
Yeah, I did like Zinter too. He had that, of course, horrible, I think, broken leg or something like that. So long road coming back with that one. But yeah, I look, if we can get a guard in here, just even a body in here, I'm open to taking a swing on it. It's not going to cost you a lot to do it. Teller's not going to be pulling in a lot there. So, I mean, if you can go swinging, I think you go swinging. I don't have a problem with that. It helps out your weakest link on the offensive line, and that's always a good thing.
Yeah, I think the play that I would make for guard right now would actually be a Zeitler from Tennessee, because he's
that's the one I was looking at too. Zeitler. Yeah, I was looking at that one too. He's number one. He's playing better than Teller right now so far this year. He's a vet, so it's plug and play. Teller would be this way probably too, but these guys have been around so often, you feel like you get them right in, they know what they're pretty much going to do. They don't have there's not going to be a lot of weight on that. And certainly Zeitler's not the long-term answer there at Tennessee anyway. So maybe more of a reason that they're willing to move him.
Yeah, and he just got there anyway. It's not like there's any marriage or commitment to him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
so Zeitler, is it Zeitler or Zeitler, or do you know?
Zeitler.
It's
Zeitler.
Zeitler.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be the one that I'm looking at if I wanted some a guard like that. I was thinking maybe John Simpson from the Jets, but I guess he's only ever played left guard in his career pretty
Yeah.
much, so I don't know about that.
What we could have done is take one of the top 22 rated guards that both you and me liked in the draft,
Hmm.
and Christian Mahogany and Tate Ratledge.
Wasn't Mahogany undrafted or something? Didn't he like slip massively? Like you could have gotten
Yeah.
him for nothing?
Yeah. He went late on that one.
Hmm.
Like fourth, fifth round or something. It was odd. We couldn't understand it. We both liked his tape. We're like, what's going on? What is the NFL doing on this one? Like, you guys don't like
Hmm.
good offensive linemen?
I thought his
So
leg
weird.
fell off maybe right before the draft. I thought he maybe got his leg amputated, and that's why. But I don't know. I'd still spend a sixth round pick on an amputated Christian Mahogany.
I didn't get that one, and he's playing, well for him. It may be the pass protection because he's not the greatest a pass protector. He's kind of a, he's kind of a run blocking dude at his forefront, but he's still top 19 rated in the sport at guard for Detroit, and Ratledge is right now 22nd highest rated guard in the sport. The guy
Yeah,
that could have been a Hawk.
yeah, better than what we have. That's all I know.
That's right.
Hmm.
Right.
And we got the tackle thing kind of figured out too. So it's not like we're saying, oh, we'd throw these guys in a terrible situation. No, we've actually got the tackle play kind of figured out this year. Both those guys are doing good.
We're at the very least, with all the frustrations we've had through the years, to your point on the offensive line, you're starting to remove down the number of things that you need to address. You're feeling okay, more and more of like, okay, this is set, put it away. This is set, put it away. Now it really just comes down to that center and right guard position at this point.
Yeah. What do you think of Zabel so far this year, by the way? Because PFF really doesn't like him for reasons that I think mystify a lot of people. But there's a lot of metrics out there that say he's been really good. What's your judgment there?
I think a rookie starter is always going to give you, to a degree, some of the up and down nature of play, which will lead to the grades maybe not meting out to being always the best. To my eyes, watching him on the field, I think he's doing a very good job, and he's been an upgrade over Laken Tomlinson. I think that it stands out that probably there are as much the hit and miss situations when it comes to him as a run blocker, getting push, getting his block laid. That's been where really the struggle is from my perspective on it. But as a pass protector for a guy that is a left tackle, and let's think about this, it's a left tackle transitioning to kind of guard. Guards tends to be a stronger position in there. That's the requirement if you're going to move those bigger guys off the line of scrimmage. I think you would expect with a guy like Zabel that some of that strength you're going to give a little bit of time to with him and making this transition to be that guy that can eventually be more road graderish in what he brings than a dancing bear there at the left guard. But as well, you get the benefit of him being a former left tackle, the left guard. And why is he so good in pass pro? Because you get some of those nice left tackle like feet at left guard. So, there's some good, there's a little bit of the not bad, but there's some stuff there for the improvement. But I'd expect with time it will improve for a guy that transitioned like he has to left guard.
Yeah, it would be very odd if it didn't get better, but there's been some mixed takes on how his play has been so far, which is always interesting.
You just get those. I think with rookies, it's part of why head coaches don't want to roll with rookies, and that they're very hesitant usually to start them 24/7 because the growing pains are real, and you're going to go through those moments where it's like, God, he just did something great, and oh God, he just blew this. Ah, he just did something great. Ah, he just, but that you're okay to ride with that as long as the lows aren't too low, and it should improve with time. The more seasoning he gets.
Right. Jeffrey, thank you for the $5. Outside of watching the games, I haven't fully transitioned to NFL yet because of the Mariners run. Very happy with how the Sam Darnold trade appears to be working. Better than I think anybody could have expected so far. Like
trading out. I was like the same thing. It was like you saying we traded for Sam. He means like trade out. I got it. Okay.
Yeah, like the new quarterback. But I mean, I understand that most people would have Baker as the MVP right now, but Darnold would be on the list, at least, I think, of most people so far.
Best free agent signing in John Schneider's history right now, and it looks like it'll be by a mile if it can stay at this pace. Teams just are not able to land quarterbacks that play at this level of play out on the open market. This just does not happen. And the amount of props that we've got to give John down the line on this, if this sustains, it needs to be through the roof. because of the fact that this does not just happen, and it doesn't happen by luck. And that John tactically chose this in so many directions, from moving on from Geno to identifying Sam. You really have got to give a lot of lauding to this front office to get this done, and have the imagination to understand that this could work, especially when they put it in tandem with Clint Kubiak in this scenario. Very smartly put together this whole situation has been with Sam coming aboard.
What's second place though? What would be second place on the free agent signing list? It would be I don't even know. It's tough, right?
Well, it's probably it'd be like the value signing of something, It's certainly not going to be a big ticket free agent. Now, some of that is because he's just not spent a lot of money out there in free agency. But yeah, you're right. There wouldn't be a guy that you're necessarily, you're probably going back to, your Cliff Avrils or your Michael Bennett's.
Yeah,
that you're
that's
having to go
probably it. It's either Bennett or Averill.
Yeah. But this would far surpass, even for what those guys brought to the table. This would far surpass it. We got all these teams in the book, Brendan, that are desperate for quarterbacks, that are searching behind every corner, every crack, every crevice for any quarterback that they can find. And here we have found ours heading into his prime at 28 years old on a mid-market deal that we didn't give up anything for. That is tremendous.
Atba Rubin. That was a fun one. I liked Atba.
Ataba
Rubin.
Atta Rubin.
Yeah.
Like Attaboy.
Yeah. The tuba. I like that. That guy was fun. It was fun to have.
He was fun. Yeah. Remember when he I had on one of my funny clips I put on the channel where I think he had he lifted up Larry Fitzgerald up on his shoulders on one play. Like Larry got over his shoulders and he lifted him up and tossed him off his back.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think I remember that one. I think he had a pick when he was here too at some point. I think he picked off a pass. That was fun.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Nick, thank you for the $4.99. Hey guys, love your work. Keeps me up to date with everything. Curious what your thoughts on getting a guy with some experience for right guard or center. So we did just talk about this a little bit. The options. Well, we talked about right guard. We talked about a few options there. Center. JPJ is still kind of the one guy that I know of that might be available that you could get. I don't know of anything other than that, though. Center is tough, I feel like, because teams don't want to give up decent centers.
Yeah, I think that there's two parts that make this hard. Number one, the one you talked about, this is with both center and right guard. Teams don't tend to want to give up off a good offensive lineman. The second part that we've got to kind of acknowledge right now, which is the part that I didn't actually anticipate with the trade deadline being moved back. I thought with it being moved back that this would open up more of options for you to have more teams that would be in more sell mode. What's happened is the opposite on this. And you've had teams that are more believing in the dream still as they get to the trade deadline, even if they've had mixed results or semi-bad results. And as you look across the league this year, Brendan, I think you'd agree we don't have as much of the dominant teams. I don't think we have as much of the purely bad teams. The parity is as alive as ever. And to me, what that's going to equate to is then less teams willing at the trade deadline to be in sell mode and more teams being willing to be in buy mode, which means you have to pay more prices to get the guys and that there's less guys to actually pick from that you can bring onto your team. I went through and did an exercise on this kind of going blow by blow. And it's like, first, let's just take center, for instance, Ethan Posick. And he's kind of fallen off. He's getting older. His performance is not the same there with Cleveland. Certainly wouldn't cost you a lot. Joe Tippmann with the Jets. Did the Jets with Joe Tippmann? He's had a little bit of a lesser play there recently with them. Is that a guy who hasn't been performing well recently? You can maybe get them to throw you over. It's kind of like guys like this. And absent that, there's just not a lot of other, teams out there. Take just like our division, nobody's trading within it here. NFC North, you have everybody in the NFC North that feels like they're in it. NFC East, you could have every team in that division that feels like they're kind of in it, including the Giants at 2-4 because the Eagles are up at 4-2. So it's like even another week or two later, this isn't really going to change all that much. You're not going to get suddenly one of these teams really that much more ardently in the sell mode. So it really comes down to like feasibly only like 5, maybe 6 teams that are really going to be purely in sell mode here. And that's just not a lot there to pick from at that point.
Yeah. I mean, the Giants are interesting because I don't know if they're in sell mode either. I think you're right. But I do wonder if, like, John Michael Schmitz has been such a disaster so far. I do wonder if they just give him away and then you could try a reclamation project there. He's been like really bad. I don't know what the heck's going on there because I remember scouting him and remember thinking he's close to a blue chipper as far as centers go. But
yeah, he was He was a surprise that he hasn't been better. I've got one for you so I've got two dream trade deadline trades.
Okay.
One of them you know about, which is Crosby.
Yeah.
That's like no brainer. Would you give up 3 firsts for Crosby?
Well, I'm thinking about it, so I'd at least consider it. That's tight. So basically, you're giving up more than the Packers gave up for Parsons.
Yes, because of the contract.
Yeah,
That's why that's the driver here, and I think it's very feasible. I think you'd agree. If I don't have to sign the guy to a contract and he's under for multiple years of club control, then that's going to increase the ante.
What am I going to do for off-season content if we don't have first-round picks for 3 straight years, though?
The draft coverage is going to be a little lighter.
Yeah.
I'll say that it's going to be a little bit lighter.
I would do it. I would do it.
Yeah, I would do it too. You're gonna have to address this edge here sooner than later with the way you've got it set up on some of the contracts. The guy that's the number 2, that's a complete kind of like Crosby, probably pie in the sky, no chance, very little. But Linderbaum with the Ravens is coming at the end of that rookie deal. They need to sign him to a contract. The Ravens have some deals already on the books with your Matabukes and your Hamiltons and your Lamar Jacksons that are already fairly significant. Ronnie Staley, left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're not as much in the willing the place to pay the price it's going to take, 15, 20 million a year for a Linderbaum. Maybe you can come in with them at 1-5, maybe being in a bit of a sell mode. That one's a little bit definitely out of left field, but they haven't put him on a new contract yet. So
yeah, I like it. What if you called up the Saints and asked about Eric McCoy or Cesar Ruiz? Anything there, you think?
Caesar's injured, and I think it's something fairly significant.
Oh, okay.
Eric McCoy. Eric McCoy is going to be hard for them to move. Saints got him on the bare minimum base. Recently signed his new deal back in 22. So he's looking at having, so the void years, so he's about $20 million of bonus money that's got to come off the books right now for them to move him. And the Saints are sitting on $8 million right now as it stands.
Really well-run organization down there.
Yeah, it's like, well, and they want to move, like you're hearing about Olave being maybe moved.
Yeah,
same situation there where it's like, dude, it's any of these guys that they move, it's going to be, dude, they're over the cap still just looks god awful. I hate how they're, it's so bad, Brendan. It's so bad. I don't know how they move any of them, to be honest with you. They're because they've got on all these guys, they don't have any base to bonus that they can flex here to free up the space just to move the guy to eat the dead money that they got to eat. I don't know how they get Olave done. I don't know how they get, definitely, I don't think McCoy's got a chance. If you can do it for sure. If you can talk them into it, but he's $17 million of dead money right now for McCoy as it stands.
Okay.
I don't know if you can pull that off.
Worst GM in the league, Mickey? What do you think? Maybe
worst GM in the league. I mean, hard not to say that's no. Jerry Jones is the worst general manager in the league, but he's the worst in the cap management. I would say.
Well, they haven't won anything lately either. This has all been in service of nothing, but winning like 6 games a year. It's unbelievable that he still has a job. It's unbelievable he didn't get fired years ago. Like, he's really bad.
He's definitely had way more longer than he should have. I mean, he's been the GM there since 2001, Brendan. I think when you get to the point where you've been there a quarter of a decade and you got 1 Super Bowl championship, 1 Super Bowl appearance, couple conference appearances in that time, I think you want to see a little bit more from your GM than that for that amount of time, especially when you're going to do this whole, I'm going to operate in this whole weird contextual place from a cap strategy standpoint where I'm negative 50 million in the hawk every single year. That's the other part, I think, kind of to this. And I just looked it up. Ruiz had a high ankle sprain, so technically coming back, but not passing a physical right now.
Yeah, Greer in Miami.
Another guy with a lot.
Yeah,
and he's got 22 million and 22 and a half in.
Oh boy. Okay.
Money, So
that's not going to work. Yeah.
Again,
I guess Greer in Miami is probably down there too. He's been there 25 years and hasn't won a playoff game. That's probably worse.
Yeah, I don't know what do you need as far as more proof your guy. I understand you don't want to turn over too much, like every 3 years flipping guys around, but you get 25 years into it, it's like,
Yeah, my friend's a Dolphins fan. He says the reason they haven't fired him is because of the lawsuit from Brian Flores. Apparently, they can't fire
Mm,
him until that settles for some reason,
that's
which
weird.
is
All
weird.
right.
Yeah. Let's see here. Bronze Sausage, thank you for the $1.99. You guys are great. 31-17, go Hawks.
Thank you, Bronze. I like your
31,
score.
31 points on the Houston defense would be pretty legit. If we can do that, people are going to be talking.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, they would.
I like it, though.
Appreciate you, Bronze. Love it.
Appreciate it.
Let's go.
Martin Lawrence, thank you for the €5. Sam Dime Time Darnold has been excellent. I have to admit, I'm so surprised by his accuracy on tight window throws and red zone efficiency so far.
The tight window throws, I'm with him on this. I mean, he's a guy that has the arm and the pinpoint control in his throwing hasn't always been there. I mean, he's been up around 73% at times from a completion percentage standpoint this year. That's part of that taking the game to another level type thing. And he's hitting these big throws down. There's nobody more accurate in this sport on throws of 20 yards or more down the field. And it's been a very nice development. I knew he's a pretty good red zone guy. That's partially how he got some of the touchdowns last year, was just he's such a quick decision maker in the red zone, and he can put some juice on that ball in tight spaces where the windows do get smaller, that he finds a way to fit it in there. But certainly that accuracy has come forward, and that's been a marvelous development with him, Martin, to your point. And hopefully he just can keep sustaining this. It's been a lot of fun to watch on tape. A lot of fun to go back and watch the all 22s, Brendan, on him when he's on some of these throws where you're just like, whoo, I get better than that.
And it's to all three levels as well. There's
Mm-hmm.
no area of the field except maybe screen passes. And I don't know if Sam Darnold's the reason why we're not having success on screen passes. I think that there's a lot more going on there.
Yeah, I agree there.
But yeah, it's been great. Thank you, Martin.
Appreciate you, Martin.
Let's tell the people about a sleeper for a little bit here.
Let's
How
do
about
it.
that? All right.
Let's do
So
it.
while I get set up here, can you tell them real quick about giving them the rundown?
Yeah, let's give you guys the rundown here. Let me get my deal up here. We right now, me and Brendan are both being sponsored by Sleeper. You think you know football? Then try to turn your football knowledge into real money with the Sleeper app. The ultimate fantasy sports app can turn game day into payday. Just download the Sleeper app and pick more or less on your favorite players with more stats than any other daily fantasy app. Just choose two more players from pregame or live. You can do it live too. Pick more or less from the predicted stats, and you could win up to 100 times your money if your picks win. Use promo code SBN or NEST. Me and Brendan are having a code off, and they will match you up to $100 of your first deposit. That's $100 from me and Brendan to you, and you support both our channels at the same time. And they do have actually one more promo going that Brendan doesn't have up on his screen, but there is one more promo they've got in place, which is you don't even have to use our code. You can just create a login, and they will give you a $20 freebie into your account. Here you go. Thank you very much. See Sleeper terms and use for details. And terms and conditions do apply. But thank you to Sleeper for sponsoring both of our shows.
Yep. And I am code SBN, and HawksNest is code NEST. That is NEST. So either of those codes will get you the 100% match up to $100. So if you look over to the left side of the screen right now, I've got my screen up. I've got the Sleeper app up, and I've got some Seahawks stuff up. They do have some lines for this week. So let's go through here, see what we can do. I am really liking the idea of the AJ Barner over 26.5. I think that feels good. So I'm going to start with that. What are you feeling, Brandon? Anything jump out to you?
I'm going to go with the Walker at 46.5.
The over?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm feeling that one. I like it. I like the concept there. And let's see here. What else do we got here? So I like the idea of, okay, it looks like so that's getting pretty far down there. I am going to I'm feeling that Nick Chubb is going to do a little bit of work in this game. 37.5 feels so low. That feels like so easy to get. So I'm going to say over on the Nick Chubb 37.5.
Show me the Woody Marks one.
That's just the anytime touchdown.
All right, go to rush yards, please.
Let's see. Oh, okay, cool. 26.5 there. Got Charbonnet at 39.5. That feels high.
We've been so good against the run. I hate picking high on the run, but I feel like I'm gonna take the under on CJ Stroud with 15.5 rushing yards.
Hey, he's gonna be running for his life. I don't know, man.
I'm on the line on this one. They're not they did good on this week as far as making the tough picks there.
All right.
Actually, you know what? No, I'm going to go less than Charbonnet. Flip to the less than Charbonnet. Charbonnet
Okay.
needs to show me 1.4 yard per carry average. 40 yards looks like he's got to scale Everest to get there right now with what he's getting.
He's gonna have to get it all on one carry.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, so that is our entry for the week. We've got AJ Barner over 26.5, Ken Walker over 46.5, Nick Chubb over 37.5, and Zach Charbonnet under 39.5. So you can see here that goes 6.9. Very nice. And again, remember, apply your promo to get that free $20 bet that Hawksnest was talking about. And also use your code to get a 100% match on your deposit. So thank you to Sleeper for sponsoring both of our shows this year. We'll continue to talk about them as the year goes on. And make sure you get over there. And if you think you know football, then go get some damage done on it, man. Go get it done.
Make some money.
All right. Okay. So that's that. We did get a couple more donos while we were doing that. Let's see here. B Schneid 5, thank you for the $1.99. If we acquire a center, do we slide Sundell to right guard? Interesting.
We don't have a lot of a track record with Sundell at right guard to really determine how well he will perform there. This is one of those situations I think you go where you say, Schneid, that when the floor is set so low with Bradford on his performance, and I will say with Bradford, I don't want to seem too hard on him because I do think he has mildly improved this year. I do think he's, especially as a pass protector, better this season. I think still when it comes to run blocking, I mean, him and Lucas running into each other at the goal line on a fourth down attempt was just, or third down attempt, I guess it was just like, what are we doing? But I'm not sure. It's kind of like the guess here where I don't know how Sunday look at right guard. I do know how low the bar is. I would tend to think that maybe there would be an improvement there, but I'm not as certain about it there, B. Schneid. On that one, I'd be a little bit kind of flip a coin a little bit there.
Yeah. I do think that Bradford is not the rock bottom guy that he was last year anymore. He's close, but I think there is some stuff going on there. Like he has no penalties through 6 games, which is remarkable given where he was last year.
Yeah. And especially he's been a pre-snap guy that sometimes can be problematic with that. I mean, got to give him some credit. He's come a little bit forward in his game. And so it is a little bit more improved, which just doesn't give me as much confidence as Sundell just sliding. I do feel like Sundell really is to be at his best as a center, pure and simple. He can do some great guard stuff, but I think just he is a center.
Which is not saying much for him if this is the best that he can do, unfortunately. I know he's a good scheme fit, but I'm pretty down on that guy at the moment.
Yeah, it's kind of you're getting again sort of bottom 30. You're getting like the 30th best performance from centers in the sport right now at your position. Is what it is at that point. It's just not good enough, and certainly a lot of room for improvement there.
Sean Collins, thank you for the $5. Any chance we can just throw a bunch of money at Kubiak to keep him? Generally speaking, I feel like it doesn't work like that. Like as a coach, you always want the opportunity to prove yourself as a head coach if the opportunity arrives. Now, as Brian Callahan as Callahan has learned the hard way, sometimes it goes the other way and you disgrace yourself as a head coach and you get humiliated. But I think that if the opportunity is there for you to become a head coach, you're going to take it and just hope you can figure it out.
Yeah, I think that's the general nature is these guys all want to be head coaches sooner than later. And I think that the thing that rather than it being about money that keeps him here and that's the determining factor, what you maybe could hope for is just that the jobs that are available are at organizations that nobody really wants to go be a head coach because they can see that that's going to be a failure. I mean, Miami moves on from McDaniels. I don't know who's like lining up there to be like, get me into Miami, other than you maybe just like the weather. So if you have a couple of these teams that have moved on from coaches at spots where there's a lot of work to be done and it's not looking very nice, maybe a guy like a Kubiak goes, I appreciate you guys being interested. I'm going to stay in this really beautiful spot here and then wait a year till I get maybe more of a pick of the litter type situation. I think that's more of what you maybe would hope for here.
Yeah, I will say though, it looks like that Baltimore job will be open. That's a pretty sweet spot overall, I think. So if that's open and you can get that, I don't know
Would you
how.
trust Lamar Jackson to execute a West Coast offense like this though?
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Maybe you'd have to be the head coach and let somebody else run the offense or something. Maybe that's the way it would have
Yeah.
to work.
But I think if you're bringing in Kubiak as a head coach, you're bringing him like you bring in Mike McDonald for his defense. You're bringing him in for that offense. And I
Mhm.
think that, Lamar's a great quarterback, but I don't think Lamar works in every single offense out there. And if I put him on a rhythm-based timing approach to offense where I'm sort of taking his legs away from things at times a little bit, I don't know if and I don't know if him as a throw over the rock with that. It's like, for instance, us right now. You go to the condensed split, and remember with Lamar, his big problem is throwing those 9 routes at times and hitting the deep stuff. So you go to condensed splits, and now you're leaving Lamar and having to throw those 9s the whole game, and he's just overthrowing guys by 3 yards on the 9 routes. It's like, well, it's not really a fit for the offense at that point.
Hmm. Yeah. If Buffalo continues the way they're going, I wonder if this could be it for McDermott. Like he might be a victim of his own success, where he set the bar so high that if they go one and done this year, which I think is a possibility, maybe he gets canned. Maybe that's the opening.
No, it's the old thing is if you're a defensive-minded head coach and your defense is crap while your offense is carrying the load, you're not going to probably last too long to your point as a head coach in that town, are you?
Yeah, probably not. And there's always the wild card of what if Andy Reid finally retires, because he talks about it every year.
Well, it's that or it's Kelsey's going to punch him out one of these days on the sidelines. It seems like the guy blows up
Yeah.
every other week on the guy. Yeah, Eddie's getting near the end there. I think you can definitely feel in that. Look, the Kansas City seems like they might have a little bit of work to be done. They're still kind of dangerous this year. They're getting Rashid Rice back into the flow, which helps that offense out majorly.
Yeah.
But I could see him getting to the point where it's the end is coming sooner and sooner there with Andy.
Yeah. So there could be some pretty decent openings this offseason. I'm not ruling it out, but you're right. I certainly wouldn't want to go be the head coach in Cleveland or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I
There'll
mean,
be some bad ones there.
Stefanski's amazing, and if he can't do it, then who is?
Yeah. I will say at least Cleveland does offer to whatever new coach comes in there. You got 2 first-round picks, and they're probably going to be 2 generally meaty first-round picks at that.
Well, it's their own and then Jacksonville, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's not bad. I can dig it.
A little enticement.
David Pugh, thank you for the $4.99. Ginger Jesus is a more athletic Joe Burrow with a slightly bigger arm. I feel like that's a decent comparison for the guy balling out.
Yeah, I mean, physically speaking, definitely Sam. This is why he's a top 5 pick. And I know Burrow was a number 1 pick, but Burrow also just had that magical LSU season that was a bit of a driver there. Burrow's a supremely anticipatory thrower, and that's how he gets by with kind of, I think, at times a average to maybe a slightly above average arm at best. And
Yeah.
Sam's got a legit top end arm for the position. And I do agree. I think Sam's probably a little bit more mobile than Joe is.
Yeah, I can see that. Burrow just has the anticipatory ability that I don't think anybody else has. I certainly don't think Darnold has, but it's not a bad comparison.
No, and Darnold's got some shades of it, but Burrow's the best in the sport at it.
Mhm.
Darnold, you got to see it like, for instance, on the Cooper Cup touchdown in the back of the end zone that he threw on that out route where he threw that ball before the break happened. Like you do get it here and there from Darnold on that, but Burrow's just next level with it. Where it's just like, dude, how's he anticipating that throw to that spot and putting in that right spot,
Yeah.
just perfectly timed.
Yeah, and we have learned the hard way this year how good Burrow is watching Jake Browning try to run that offense. So, I don't think that Darnold's on that level yet, but it's a reasonable comparison, I suppose.
I think it is too. And certainly if he keeps playing at this level, then it's a very apt one at that.
All right, so let's turn things over to the Houston offense. That's certainly the side of the ball where they've got some issues. That's where they've had problems. Last 2 weeks have been better, but the defense has fed into the offense, right? They've had a lot of turnovers. Their defense is really locked down on Tennessee and Baltimore. So they clearly still have some problems over there.
Mhm. Yeah. Offensively, there's some things.
Yeah, so let's start with I mean, we all know about their issues up front with the offensive line. They've made two big changes already this year. They started the year with, I believe, Cam Robinson at left tackle. They've now traded him and gone with Ariante Ursary, the rookie from Minnesota.
Mhm.
And they've also, surprise, surprise, benched Laken Tomlinson and put Juice Scruggs over at left guard. So they are 5 games in and have already made 2 personnel changes up front. So what do you see with the new look Houston offensive line?
Well, certainly this is the vulnerability for them on the offensive side of the ball is where you can go at them on that offensive line. They've gotten some good improvement, some play from Ed Ingram there at right guard, who's been able at least to help them out there a little bit. Juice Scruggs, though, is really a center playing left guard. So he's going to be vulnerable. I think Leonard Williams has got to be licking his chops this week. And then you do get a rookie at the left tackle. So there's some vulnerabilities. I think when you look at some of the numbers here, it tends to lead me to believe that the Texans are building a lot of their play calling, Brendan, in anticipating what we thought this would be, which is just a really porous offensive line and pass protection, and that you've got to call games to get around this. You can't just have a guy in CJ Stroud who's capable of throwing 40, 45 times a day and drop him back like that in this offense because he's going to get killed. So what they're doing, Brendan, is they're finding a way to be consistent in running the ball to get a couple yards every time on the run game, right? They're not going to have a lot of the negative stuff, right? Kind of runs like we've had. They're going to get some runs going and they're going to stay committed enough to the running game to make it happen. And a guy like Nick Chubb, for instance, you have a guy, he's not, especially after that injury, going to be a game breaker as far as the running back goes, but he will be a grinder for you. He will go get you those 3-4 yards in there for them and make sure they're at least getting that. So they're not left in positions, Brendan, where there's a lot of those third and supremely long, where again, the pass protection is left out a little bit longer on that island and they go at it. The other way that they're doing this, like we saw from Trevor Lawrence last week, is that I've got him right now at the 4th fastest time to throw rate in the sport with CJ Stroud.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going, if I hold this thing past 2.67 seconds, my butt's getting hammered. I got to get this ball out of my freaking hand. And so there's a lot of that at the forefront of this where it's staying committed to the running game, getting the ball out of his hands. This is then leading to teams not blitzing them very often. So I do like this matchup from our Hawks, who don't like to tend to blitz anyway, but they're going to go, okay, we won't blitz. We'll stay back with our coverage on this and at it. But you saw last week, one of the keys was, can you create quick pressure on Lawrence, knowing that at the forefront of that, he wants to throw the ball almost as humanly quick as possible? And you did. You were able to.
Mm-hmm.
Similar kind of challenge this week with him in that you're not really able to get the stack box blitz stuff to go to get him. Now, stack boxes can do what simulate pressures can, but the blitz aspect won't, because he's going to at times be getting that ball out of his hands to hit a hot route. So not as smart to maybe go out there and try to blitz them on that side of it a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see what they draw from a Seahawks perspective on this to kind of counter that. But I don't think you've got to worry as much about, them trying to hit you over the top deep. There's going to be a lot of, we're willing to live, I think, a little bit short and intermediate at times in this offense. And that stands out.
Right. Yeah, it's really odd, the strategy that Houston's employed here, because this is the last year before Stroud gets extended. And you would certainly think that the approach would be to kind of go all in right now, especially on the offensive line. But instead, they seem to have made moves purposefully to weaken their offensive line. Like they traded Tunsil this offseason, right?
Yeah, they traded.
What
Sorry,
was it, like just for picks, right? They didn't even get a player back.
Yeah, just picks and not necessarily the type of prime, certainly not the draft capital they gave up for Laramie when they moved him to bring him to the Texans in the first place. So it was kind of like getting whatever you could kind of get.
Right. So the one guy I didn't hear you mention there was Titus Howard, their right tackle. He's been he's kind of a journeyman as well, right? I feel like I've heard that name on a few different teams throughout his career.
He's a functional right tackle for you, but certainly something that you can get after. And when you got the rookie starting on the opposite side, it's not we got the two pillars and then the interior is just weak. There's some weakness here all across the board. Even a guy, Ed Ingram, has not historically been a really good player. He's performed, I think, pretty well for them here early on this year, but I think there's vulnerabilities all across that front. And I agree with you. I don't understand why they've taken this approach. CJ's playing still very good football right now behind this line. And like I said, there's some things they're doing play calling to mitigate. Unlike last year, I think this is why they fired their OC, was that he wasn't like Grubb with us last year. He wasn't with his play calling mitigating the pass protection issues. And so he was causing CJ to take even more hits and be under more duress because he wasn't taking this into kind of account. So this new OC is, I will say though, it is starting to have a bit of the cascading effect now that this has been a year and about 6 games on CJ that this has been going on, being that I've told you, and I believe big, hugely in that respect of hits add up, sacks add up. And I know he's more middle of the road this year on sacks and hits, but there's still a lot of just brutal snaps on tape. Watching like Jeffrey Simmons just completely get in the backfield instantaneously off the snap and just wrap him up. And he's a couple of hits in the game I was watching this morning. He's like slowly getting up. And then you see him missing some throws that I know CJ, if this was 2 years ago when he was having that kind of magical rookie year a little bit, would have hit. And that's what happens is these hits start to add up. And now you got a quarterback throwing a ball just a little bit earlier than he normally would have because he's anticipating the pressure that's there that may not actually be there. And I'm not saying he's to the point of seeing ghosts. He's still over 70% completion percentage, 8 touchdowns to 3 interceptions, over 100 quarterback rating. CJ Stroud's still playing really well. But I think some of this is starting to, the weight of this is starting to kind of drop a little bit on top of his shoulders with this. The Rams game in the first game of the year, I mean, he could not get the ball out. And it's Rams pass rush, but he could not get the ball out of his hands fast enough in that game. It was like hot potato is how he was playing it. And I just think that it's hard to ask him to play the quarterback position in this way, to have to work around this deficiency that is there.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's very, very strange the way they've approached things over there. You talked about their backfield. They're kind of piecing it together with Nick Chubb, Woody Marks, and it's okay, right? They've done an okay job back there. The running game is okay. They've also had some issues finding secondary targets in that receiver room, but they kind of anticipated that. They've got Nico Collins. He's good. Dalton Schultz has been good. But they're still trying to find that like second and third receiver. I think they were hoping they could, they got Christian Kirk, veteran, and then they've got guys like Jaden Higgins, who I love. I love Jaden Higgins, but he's a rookie and he's not there yet. There's definitely a lack of that secondary target in the passing game right now.
Well, and remember, they also went with Jalen Noel. So they went with both of those two Ohio State kids. We liked them both. I think you were a little higher on Jaden Higgins than I was. But they went with both those two guys. And I think if you were to probably ask this coaching staff and front office right now, I think they'd tell you that they would have liked to have seen some more instantaneous production from one of the two of Higgins or Noel, that somebody's bringing a little bit more to the table than they brought so far here. And maybe they're just warming up and these guys will get heated up as this year goes along, but not a lot of work to be had with either of those two guys. Not a lot of targets in this offense with either of these two guys so far. Nico's a monster, man. He's got some Julio Jones in his game, not fully Julio, but there's some Julio-esque attributes to his game. I think the part that maybe can stand out here a little bit for Seattle on this, as far as kind of looking at the numbers of them offensively, is that they have the third least amount of yak yards in the sport. So a very station to station kind of offense. CJ throws it to the guy catches it, he gets tackled. It's not a lot of, you got to worry about dynamic bubble screens and guys shedding blockers. And so there's a bit of that to this that maybe Mike can take advantage of here too, a little bit on that side of it. But Nico's the truth, man. He's tough. He's going to get his, but to your point, will the rest of the offense get theirs? I mean, Dalton's fine, but I don't think he's a next level challenge at the tight end position. He's kind of a middle of the road average guy, and so I think if you can neutralize Nico, there's not a lot of other guys on this offense that really are going to harm you. Of course, Tank Dell's out, and that's a big loss for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when you have an offense like that, a station-to-station offense, they can't afford to make any mistakes. Like one penalty, one drop pass, and the drive feels like it's over because you're not going to be able to overcome 1st and 15 or 2nd and 12 the way these other teams do. So yeah, I think that's another part of it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point because you can kind of put it in as a combination. Okay, we've got a mediocre run game, porous offensive line and pass protection, really a number one receiver and a lot of question marks around him. We can't generate or manufacture a lot of stuff necessarily in how we roll what we do. And so it doesn't, we all come back to like, this just makes the offense feel like it's really hard to get what it's going to go get. And it comes back to CJ where it's like, it's really hard on your shoulders to make this happen because there's so much on you to kind of make it go, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Running game's there just to make you honest, not to be dangerous. Sorry.
No, you're fine. But yeah, Cade Stover, by the way, on injured reserve. I remember really liking that guy, but he's been kind of out of the picture, so we don't have to think about him either. Kind of underrated element.
Yeah, I think it's great of you to mention this because, they probably wanted to come into this year to play a little bit more 12 personnel with Dalton and Cade. And Dalton is more to me of kind of, he can do some inline stuff, but he is a little more H-backy in what he rolls out there at the tight end position. And then Cade, you remember him, that's a monster run blocker. That's a guy that's a problem when he gets a hat on a hat going back to Ohio State. And so that is a loss for them. And I think it reduces in watching their film a little bit of their usage then of 12 personnel this year.
Yeah. They got Harrison Bryant as their second tight end, and he's okay, but I don't think that's what the plan was this year.
No, I don't think so either.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that's about all that can be said about this Houston offense. I know that a lot of Houston fans complain about the play calling this year, but like you said, they're pretty restricted with what they can do.
You can't put it on the OC to me with this. If you put this offensive line together, if you don't give me a dynamic running back, and I will say with Chubb, like Marks and Chubb, like you said, they're kind of getting the job done. But in Chubb, yeah, he feels like a guy that's had a couple of catastrophe leg injuries in his career from college to the pros. And in Woody Marks, he comes in to be kind of that explosive guy, but he's not all that explosive. The reason the guy was taken in like the 5th or 6th round. He's not a 4-3-5 A chain guy. He's like a 4-5 guy trying to act explosively. And it just doesn't. You watch them run it and you can really feel like I'm watching the tape that they're not challenging defenses at the running back position. They're not. And in Chubb, at least you have a guy that, you're not going to get him behind the line of scrimmage. He's going to fight through the first tackler. He still brought that stuff to play from his Cleveland days, but he has lost some juice. He has lost some of the explosiveness he once had.
Yeah. About the only saving grace for CJ Stroud this week is that we probably won't have Derek Hall. If Derek Hall was playing, I'd say this is the end of CJ Stroud's career, but I don't think much is saving him.
No, I think we're going to have him under some good duress. If we can just keep the short passing attack under control and not let them slowly bleed us up the field, I think we can get after them.
Mm-hmm. Bronze Sausage, thank you for the $1.99. Having a bad O-line makes you a little boring.
Makes you a lot boring. Makes you a lot boring, Bronze Sausage. It drives me crazy. And, we're starting to kind of realize our error in our ways, but look how much better our offense looks right now as we stab just 3/5 of an offensive line. Just that difference from where we've been prior with the Stone Forsythes and the backup low line here and the back O line there. It makes such a difference on the functionality of your offense. And one that I just don't know why the NFL on this one. I know why they do. It's that whole thing where they're just not only good enough, good ones coming out. And they don't do the things at the college level that you're going to want to do at the pro level. There's too much advanced math you have to do to pick certain guys that teams don't like to do versus, hey, I got a receiver here who I know will be good, or I have a tight end here that I know will be good doing this. But it's one word to me, Bronze, coming back to it. The teams that put the investment in the offensive line are ahead of the game right now, in my opinion. Teams that are still trying to operate off of skill position players and the fancy positions, if you were, I think you're a little behind it.
Yeah, and we are learning that you have to go above and beyond to address the offensive line right now. If you put in a normal amount of investment, that's probably not good enough. And sometimes you can go above and beyond and it still isn't good, but you've really got to go at it right now because there's just a deficiency. Like, look at a team like the Giants, right? They invested multiple top 10 picks into their offensive line. They got Schmitz, who was a second-round pick at center, and they're still not good. So you really got to go at it if you want to address it. You got to overinvest. You got to be like one of those teams that spends a top 100 pick on an offensive lineman every year. That's what it takes right now. And maybe one day it'll be different. But right now, there just aren't enough offensive linemen to go around.
To build on your point, Brendan, the New England Patriots drafted Will Campbell with a top 5 pick. They're 4-2 tied with the Buffalo Bills, who've put a heavy amount of investment draft capital-wise into their offensive line. There's your 2 top teams of the AFC East. Pittsburgh Steelers, Zach Frazier, Chaz McCormick. Who's the Washington kid they took? Our left tackle there? Fatanu. Broderick Jones. Oh, look at that. The Steelers are at the top of the division right now. Indianapolis Colts, the left guard, and the 2 tackles that they've spent money on and reinvesting back in their offensive line. Oh, look, they're at the top of the pop here. Chargers, who, yes, you're down Zion Johnson and you're down Alt, but that's a little bit of an indicator there about the fact that Harbaugh knows he's got to invest in the offensive line, have good backups in there, not just the starters too. Top of the division. Philadelphia Eagles have had probably the best offensive line in the sport for the last 5 years. Top of the division. Green Bay Packers, heavy investment in their offensive line every single year. A lot of money spent into that offensive line every single year. Top of the division. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, top 10 offensive line, maybe top 5 offensive line. Again, some of it injured, still top of the division. And then you have Niners and Hawks right now with maybe we're one of the outliers in this division that we've put some assets and the Niners have put some assets, but maybe we haven't hammered as much as those other teams. But to me, that's a pretty hard rule and thumb of where we take a snapshot right now, Brendan, that this does prove out that if I go to the bottom list, Brendan, if we just go through and we flip that up on the cellar dwellers, if we go flip side of that, probably going to see that these are a lot of teams not putting a lot of investment in their offensive line, or there are a lot of deficiencies in those offensive lines, like, the Raiders or the Titans or the Giants.
Yeah. It requires consistent pounding of those positions over and over and over again. And, a team like the Eagles, it just feels like, they can never have enough. They just keep on drafting offensive linemen.
Yeah. It's Tyler Steen's in there now. He's one of the well-graded guys they got out of Alabama, and they keep putting the investment in there. And so it drives me crazy because this is one where it's like the data on this is pretty succinct.
Yeah, they drafted Landon Dickerson when they still had Jason Kelce in his prime, and they were like, we'll figure this out. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. You got Cam Jurgens when they had Landon Dickerson and Kelce there. I mean, that's 3 centers. But they were like, no, we know Dickerson can play guard and we know Jurgens can play guard for a while until we get this right. Let's put the investment in it. We like the player. We trust in that it's going to be worthwhile at the end of the day. And it's worked out great.
Yeah. All right. So I think that all we really need now is a prediction for this Monday night. So what are you feeling? Give me a score.
So I've called this one a definite wish prediction from my standpoint. I can't be unbiased on this, Brendan. I can't sit here and give you I do have confidence that we can win this. I think that I don't always know what I'm going to get from the Hawk team week in and week out, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But I've called this definitely feels wish prediction-ish for me, in that I want this game. I want to get to 5-2. I want to have the bye with the rest, and then also have the ability at the trade deadline to have everything on the table. Not that we have to make a move then, but if you lose this game and maybe there's a little bit less confidence to John on that one. And so there's really, to me, a bit of a sense of urgency to this one a little bit. So I'm giving the Hawks the win. It's not as much coming down then to the X's and O's part of it, though. I think we've got an ability to create pressure on this offensive line. I think that we're not going to be challenged by the running game at all, and we're going to be able to turn them into a one-dimensional attack very easily on the back of that. And offensively speaking, though, this defense is going to be better, and I think they're going to limit down some of the points that we've seen scored here. I do still think you find a couple touchdowns. I do think you find a couple game-breaking teams. I think they're going to be pulled into the same stuff these other teams have with the condensed splits, where they're going to try to stack and blitz a little bit more. And Darnold has shown that he can go out there and hunt in those kind of situations. So I think you do just enough here on both sides of the ball when it's all said and done. The special teams comes in with a real big play to help give you a little bit of a boon at the end of it. But 23-17 Seahawks, I think that they take this win.
Yeah, and, I predicted that Houston was going to not be that great this year in the offseason. They were one of my teams that I kind of felt like would fade this year, and so far they kind of look like they might be that. So I got to stick to it, right? I don't think I can abandon it after a 2-3 start. So I'm going to go with 17-13 Seahawks. I think it'll be low scoring. I think it'll be tight, but I believe in this defense right now, and I think they'll get it done, and we can finally get a meaningful win at home for the first time in a while.
That would be really nice. You have to figure too with the Texans, man, starting at 9:00 body clock time. They'll be at 11:00 their body clock time in the heat of the battle in the third quarter, everything on the line. Can you play at your athletic best as it's almost bedtime? Your time.
Yeah, that's big. Very important.
I think it would factor in. I think it would to some, maybe not a big degree, Brendan, but in a game like this where, to your point, 17-13 might come down to being tight. Something like that can make just enough of a difference.
Okay, so I think that will do it for the show today. Thank you to everybody who showed up. We have about 400 people in here right now, it looks like.
Let's go. Let's go.
Brandon, thank you for doing this with me.
My pleasure, brother. Thank you for doing me.
And we will be doing this again. We'll be doing this again next week. Well, next week's the bye, isn't it? Actually, so maybe not.
We're gonna do a show around. We'll probably do a trade deadline show or something like that. We'll put something special up together here if we can on this, and midseason awards or something like that. We'll put something together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We'll do something next week, but I believe next week is the bye week, so hopefully we can go into this bye week 5-2. Sounds way better than 4-3. That's for sure.
Boy, would it ever, man? Boy,
Yeah.
just it's a big difference. One game, but a big difference, doesn't it? Just the sound of it.
Mm-hmm.
5-2, 5-2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
First
And
4-3, 4-3. Like that's how you say 4-3.
yeah, 4-3. You just kind of like. I don't know. That just feels like another team that's kind of lost in the middle of the NFC, and maybe they get in, maybe they don't, but you're not that excited.
No, you just feel like you're locked into this big mass of teams right now. It's like how you feel. And rather than you've kind of started to separate that. So again,
Mm-hmm.
too, with the being Texans is a challenge. And again, like you said, at home, and you haven't had that. It's a lot of kind of check marks maybe you can get hit with this kind of game to set that stage right for the rest of the season.
All right. So thank you everybody for coming out once again. We will be doing this again in the near future. We got the Mariners tonight. Big game, one of the biggest games in franchise history. So tune in for that.
I'll be live streaming every pitch on my end.
All right, sounds good to me. And yep, guys, this is a big moment. This is a pivotal one. If the Seahawks win this game, we're going to be in the top 5 of pretty much everybody's power rankings. Everybody's going to be talking about us as a NFC contender in what looks like a pretty wide open conference. So go get it done. And they're going to talk about you the way you want to be talked about. So let's get it done. And let's say it before we get on out of here. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.